I found the goodbye note stuffed between a half-empty pack of baby wipes and a burp cloth. No dramatic confrontation. No tears. No suitcase by the door. Just a post-it, scribbled like a grocery list. I need space. I'll be gone a while. Tell the kid something nice. Don't call me. I stood there in the hallway, diaper bag in one hand, the other trembling. My heart didn't sink, it detonated. The baby was screaming upstairs. Spaghetti sauce was burning on the stove. And the love of my life was just gone. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. My name is Daniel. I'm 39 years old. I'm a line cook at a diner in a small town in Iowa. I've got calluses from flipping burgers and a scar on my wrist from grabbing a hot tray too fast during a lunch rush. I've also got 4 kids, 3 of them mine by blood, and one, Zach, who I've loved since he was 6 months old. He's 9 now. He calls me Dad. Amy came into my life like a tornado. I met her in the back booth of that same diner, crying into a cold coffee. Baby on her lap. Exhausted. Alone. I refilled her cup, sat down, and never really stood back up. I married her within a year. Took on her boy like he was mine. Worked 3 shifts so she could go back to school. She used to laugh at my jokes with this high, breathless sound, her green eyes crinkling like a paper bag in sunlight. Her hair always smelled like citrus and her hands were soft from lotion she couldn't afford. She called me her anchor. I never imagined she'd be the one to sink me. The night before she vanished, she kissed me on the cheek and said she was running to Walgreens for baby Tylenol. She never came back. At first, I thought maybe she'd gotten into a wreck. I called her phone until it went straight to voicemail. I called every hospital in a 50-mile radius. I even checked her sister's place. But by morning, I knew. The bed was cold. Her toothbrush was gone. And the scent of her shampoo in the bathroom felt like a cruel echo. I sat on the couch that night, baby monitor crackling beside me, 3 kids tucked into bed with tear-stained cheeks, and I told myself this was a dream. That she just needed time. That she'd come back. She didn't. And the hell hadn't even started yet. I told them she got a temporary job out of town. That's what came out of my mouth when Lily, our middle daughter, 7 years old and heartbreak in pigtails, asked, "Why didn't Mommy come back last night?" I smiled with my lips and died behind my eyes. "She's working, sweetheart," I said. "Big opportunity. She'll be home soon." A flicker of hope sparked in her face, and I hated myself for giving it to her. But what else could I do? I couldn't tell them the truth. That their mother had vanished into the ether without a damn backward glance. That she left behind her own son like an afterthought. That the woman who used to rock our newborn to sleep while humming "Tiny Dancer" had left a note more suitable for canceling a dentist appointment than breaking a family. So I kept lying. Day after day. I packed 4 lunches. I kissed 4 foreheads. I tucked them in with shaky hands and read bedtime stories while blinking back the rage that boiled just beneath my skin. And then I'd go sit on the porch, stare at the empty driveway, and wait for a car that never came. Sometimes, I'd picture her walking up the steps. Apologizing. Saying she got overwhelmed, lost, scared. That she missed us. That she missed me. But that fantasy started to rot when I noticed her laptop was missing. And her passport. And the framed picture of the 2 of us on our wedding day, gone from the living room wall like we never existed. That was when the ache turned to something sharper. Because this wasn't panic. This was premeditated. And I knew what came next. Flashback, 2 years ago. Our anniversary. I was home late from a double shift, burned out, feet aching, still wearing my grease-stained apron. She'd waited up with wine and candles. She'd dressed up. Red dress. Heels I hadn't seen since before our youngest was born. She smiled at me like we were new again. I remember saying, "You didn't have to do all this." And she whispered, "I wanted to." She looked stunning. But I also saw the flicker of something else. Restlessness, maybe. Her smile had a tremor in it. Her eyes didn't fully meet mine. I chalked it up to exhaustion. But now I wonder, was that the night she started planning her exit? 3 weeks after she left, I came home from work to find a manila envelope on the front steps. No return address. Just my name. Inside was a notarized letter. Amy's signature scrawled at the bottom. I, Amy Reynolds, voluntarily relinquish all parental rights to the following minors. I didn't finish reading. I dropped the papers on the floor like they were on fire. Even Zach. Even her own son. She gave him up like he was a pet she couldn't keep anymore. I think I sat on the stairs for an hour that night. The hallway light flickered overhead. My hands were shaking. I didn't cry. Couldn't. All I could think about was Zach's laugh. The way he'd fall asleep with his forehead pressed to my shoulder, even now. How he still said, "I love you, Dad," every single time he left the room. I had raised him since he could babble. He didn't know another father. And now, the woman who brought him into this world was treating him like a cancelled subscription. What kind of mother does that? And what kind of man had I been to miss all the signs? Because there were signs. The late-night texts she always turned her screen away to read. The sudden bursts of me time that conveniently lined up with my long shifts. Her insistence on Travis staying in the basement just until he gets back on his feet. Travis. My friend. The one who used to call me brother over beers. The guy who showed up one rainy night 6 months ago, soaking wet, jobless, and on the edge of eviction. I gave him a place to stay. No questions asked. He played cards with the kids. Helped fix the leaky faucet. Cooked dinner sometimes when I got stuck late at the diner. I called him family. And he was in my house every day while my back was turned. Now her toothbrush is gone, and Travis's Instagram is private. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. Still, I waited. For a sign. A call. A letter. For her to ask about the kids. To say sorry. Anything. But all I got was silence. The kids started asking why mommy didn't call on Christmas. Zach kept one of her scarves in his drawer. Lily drew her a picture of a rainbow family and asked me to mail it. I told them she was really busy. They nodded, because they still trusted me. Because they didn't know that the woman who carried them now wanted to erase them from her new life. But I knew. And when the phone finally rang, when her name lit up on the screen after nearly a month of nothing, I answered it with a breath caught in my throat. And her first words. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "How are the kids?" She said, "We need to talk. I'm coming back." Just like that. And my real hell had just begun. When Amy said, "I'm coming back," it wasn't a question. It was a statement. Flat. Entitled. Like she'd just popped out for milk and figured she'd reclaim her throne without consequence. I said nothing at first. Just listened to the static of her breath through the line. It didn't tremble. She wasn't crying. If anything, she sounded annoyed. Like I was the one who'd left. "You still live at the house, right?" she asked. I wanted to scream. Wanted to rip the phone in half. But the kids were playing Go Fish in the next room, and Zach had just called me Dad with that half smile he gets when he's trying not to cry. So I swallowed the fire. "Yeah," I said. "We're still here. Unlike some people." There was a pause. She didn't deny it. Didn't explain where she'd been. Just said, "Good. I'll need to grab a few things." That was when I felt it, a sharp, instinctive punch to the chest. Not, I miss the kids. Not, can I talk to them? Just, I need to grab a few things. Like what? I asked. My winter clothes. Some files. My toothbrush. I laughed, bitter and low. You took the toothbrush already. She went quiet. I let the silence stretch until it hurt. You're with him, I said finally. Aren't you? Her breath hitched, just once. That was all I needed. Travis. The man I fed. The man I covered shifts for. The man who called my kids his nieces and nephews like some kind of discount uncle. She didn't deny it. Instead, she exhaled and said, Daniel, you've always been such a good father. But we were never really right, were we? That sentence is still branded behind my eyes. Not, I'm sorry. Not, this was a mistake. Just a revisionist take, a rewriting of a decade to justify what she'd done. I didn't respond. Because if I had, I would have broken something. She said she'd stop by that weekend to talk in person. I said sure. What I didn't tell her was that I'd already started looking. Flashback, 4 months earlier. I remember walking in after a Sunday shift, soaked in fryer grease and exhaustion. Amy was at the sink, humming, except it wasn't her usual stuff. She was humming his music. Travis was on the porch, pretending to fix the broken screen door that had been in progress for 6 weeks. I remember how they didn't jump when I walked in. Just casually nodded, like they hadn't been in the middle of something private. That night, she was all smiles. Overly sweet. Touched my arm too much. Laughed too hard at nothing. At the time, I thought she was just happy I was home. Now, I see it for what it was. Guilt. 2 days before she was due to stop by, I finally checked the Google account we used to sync our calendars. She'd forgotten to log out. Big mistake. I opened the Places You've Been tab. My stomach dropped. She'd been pinging near Des Moines for weeks. Not at a hotel. Not at a friend's. At a 1-bedroom rental on Birchview Lane. I googled the address. Travis Miller. Leaseholder. I clicked deeper. Rental listing still online. Photos showed a cramped living room, blue couch, dirty blinds, exactly the kind of place you'd shack up in when shame and ambition cancel each other out. There was one photo that gutted me. The coffee table. Same one from our basement. The one I gave him when he moved in. He'd taken more than my wife. He'd taken my furniture, my trust, my family, and arranged it all into a mockery of a new life. I drove there the next day. Didn't go in. Didn't knock. Just parked across the street and watched. At 4:12 p.m., she came out. Hair in a messy bun. Wearing the hoodie I gave her last Christmas, the one with the diner logo on the chest. She laughed at something Travis said as he locked the door behind her. He reached for her hand. She let him. No guilt. No fear. She didn't look over her shoulder once. They kissed before getting into his truck. It wasn't hurried. Wasn't secret. It was practiced. And that was when something snapped in me, not just anger. Not just betrayal. Clarity. I had been waiting. Hoping. Telling myself maybe she was just lost, scared, overwhelmed. But no. She'd chosen this. Chose him. And now she wanted to come back, for what? Her winter coat. The files. The kids. That night, I opened the letter again. The one where she gave up her rights. The one with the judge's seal and her crooked signature. I stared at the line that read, with full understanding and without coercion. And I knew, she didn't want them. Not really. Not until it became useful to have them. Not until she and Travis decided they wanted a complete picture. Something to frame. Something that looked good on social media. She wasn't coming for the kids out of love. She was coming for optics. She thought I'd roll over. That I'd hand them over like she handed over that post-it. She forgot one thing. I'm not the man I was 9 years ago. I'm a father now. And these kids. They're already mine. I hadn't meant to hear them. I swear on everything I love, I didn't go there to spy. I just wanted to see her face when I asked her the question burning a hole in my chest, why? But fate had other plans. It was Friday. Rain slid in steady rivulets down my windshield as I parked across from the one-bedroom on Birchview. I sat there with a takeout coffee, numb fingers wrapped around the cup like a lifeline. Her car was already there. So was his. The lights inside were low, just one lamp glowing through the living room window. I wasn't going to knock. Not at first. Just sit. Think. Maybe cry, though the tears had stopped coming easy lately. But then the side door opened. Not the front, the side. Like a secret entrance to a life I no longer belonged to. Travis stepped out barefoot in just his sweatpants, scratching his chest like he owned the world. Then Amy appeared behind him. She was barefoot too. Hair tied up. That soft gray robe she used to wear when we had movie nights after the kids were asleep. She used to call it her cloud. Now it looked like a stranger's costume. She laughed, this soft, almost whispered laugh I hadn't heard in months. It made my stomach tighten, because I'd forgotten how it sounded when it was real. And with me, it hadn't been real in a long time. They didn't see me. I was parked in shadow, engine off. I should have looked away. Driven off. But I didn't. I followed impulse. I stepped out of the car, crossed the street, and circled the side of the building where a narrow alley separated their unit from the neighbor's garage. I don't know what I was hoping to find. Closure. Rage. Anything to kill the hope still gnawing inside me. I found the window instead. It was cracked open. Just a sliver. Enough. The lamp inside cast a warm amber light across the room. I recognized the couch. The blanket. Her mug, our mug, resting on the edge of the table. And then her voice. Low. Breathless. Vulnerable in that dangerous, intimate way. You think he suspects anything? A pause. Travis's voice, deeper, rougher. Does it matter? He raised Zach, she whispered. All of them. He laughed, light, dismissive. They're not his. Not anymore. Then a long silence. Then the creak of the couch. The rustle of fabric. Then a sound I wish I could rip from memory forever, her sigh. Familiar. Faint. Not just from love. From surrender. I stepped back, fast. Too fast. My boot hit a trash can. Metal clanged like a gunshot. I froze. A light flicked on inside. Curtains pulled shut. But it didn't matter. The sounds were still echoing. Not in my ears, in my ribs. My throat. My spine. It was the intimacy that broke me. The ease. The familiarity. It wasn't the act. It was that they'd done it before. Dozens of times. Maybe hundreds. In silence. In laughter. In stolen moments. While I was at work. While I was rocking our baby back to sleep. While I was fixing the bathroom tiles with Travis right beside me, measuring tape in hand and this goddamn grin on his face. I drove home in silence. Rain pelted the windshield like the world itself was trying to say, wake up. I walked through the door, and all 4 kids ran to me. Zach was the last. He clung to my waist and said, "Did you find her?" I looked down at him. His wide brown eyes, her eyes. But his heart. That was mine now. I bent down, hugged him so tight he wheezed. No, I said quietly. But I found something else. He looked up. What? I smiled through the crack in my chest. Truth. After that night. I didn't speak to her for a week. I ignored her calls. Deleted her texts unread. I knew if I heard her voice again, those carefully rehearsed apologies wrapped in excuses, I'd break something. Maybe a plate. Maybe myself. I didn't want to become that man. So instead, I cleaned. I fixed the wobbly banister Amy always said was a hazard. I sorted the kids' outgrown clothes into donation bags. I finally patched the hole in the drywall behind the boys' bunk beds. It was like I needed to rebuild the house around me, prove it was still ours. But at night, when the kids were asleep and the world went still, the silence pressed in like a vice. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd been blind or just stupid. Wondering how many meals I'd cooked while she texted him under the table. Wondering if the love I thought we had was just obligation stretched too thin. Wondering what I'd done wrong, or if I had done anything at all. And then came the moment I cracked. It was a Tuesday. Rain again. Always rain. I walked past the hallway where Zach was sitting on the floor, tying his shoes. He looked up at me, hopeful. Dad? If Mom comes back, do I have to go with her? It wasn't the words. It was how small his voice was. Like he was afraid the answer would ruin him. I knelt down. His shoelaces were tangled and soaked. No, I said. You never have to go where love doesn't live. His eyes welled up. Even if she's my real mom. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I'm your real dad, I said. She just gave you a head start. And then we both cried. On that cold linoleum floor. Shoelaces soaked. Hearts unraveling. That night, I stayed up writing a letter I never planned to send. To Amy. It wasn't angry. It wasn't bitter. It was honest. I told her how I remembered her hands shaking the first time I held Zach. How she laughed when I got baby formula on my apron. How she said, "You saved me," the night we found out she was pregnant with our second. And I told her that I meant it when I said, "I do." That I would have carried her through anything. But you can't carry someone who's already walking towards someone else. I folded it and tucked it into a drawer, beneath the old ultrasound photos and the birthday cards the kids had drawn her before she disappeared. Not for her. For me. A funeral without flowers. 3 days later, her sister called. Said Amy was changing her mind. That she and Travis wanted the kids. All 4 of them. I nearly dropped the phone. She what? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She says she regrets signing the papers. That she was overwhelmed. That she's pregnant now, and, well, they want a fresh start. A real family. The word hit like a slap. Real. As if what we built was imaginary. As if 9 years of late-night bottles, scraped knees, and bedtime stories were just some phase she could rewrite. I said nothing. Hung up. And went to the closet where I'd hidden the manila envelope. 4 signatures. Notarized. Legal. She had abandoned them. And now she wanted them back. Not for love. For image. I stared at those papers for a long time. And then I made the call I never thought I would. To a lawyer. I told him everything. Sent the files. Started the process. I didn't want war. But if she was coming for these kids, then she'd better be ready for everything I had. Because this wasn't about pride. It was about protection. It was about them. She arrived on a Sunday. Like she still remembered that was pancake day. Like showing up on a weekend made her a mother again. The kids were in the backyard, chalk on their hands, hopscotch on the patio. I kept them outside, shielded, just for a little while longer. Amy pulled up in a used SUV I didn't recognize. There was a baby seat in the back already. She stepped out, belly round under a gray cardigan. Hair brushed. Lips pink. No wedding ring. But she walked like she owned the place. Like 9 years hadn't passed through me like a freight train. I opened the front door before she knocked. "Don't," I said. She blinked, hand still raised. "Don't what?" "Don't pretend this is normal. That you didn't vanish. That you didn't write them off like junk mail." Her mouth twitched. She tried to smile, but it faltered. "I made mistakes, Daniel." "No," I said. "You made choices." She exhaled, touched her belly. "I'm not here to fight. Travis and I, we want the kids. It's better for everyone. Stability. A full family. They already have a family. They need their mother." "They had her," I said, voice low. "And she left." I stepped aside. "You want to see them? Fine. But do it honestly." She hesitated. Then walked in. Zach was the first to spot her. He froze, chalk midair. Then Lily. Then the twins, who didn't even remember her face. "Mom?" Zach asked, voice thin as glass. Amy crouched, arms open. "Hi, baby." Zach didn't move. Lily stepped behind him, clutching his sleeve. Amy's eyes widened. "Aren't you going to hug me?" Zach stared at her belly. Then at me. Then he asked one question that shattered whatever performance she had planned. "Why didn't you call me on Christmas?" She opened her mouth. Closed it. Nothing came out. I stepped forward, calm. "She brought a letter for each of them when she left," I said. "Want to see it, Zach?" She signed away her rights. "Even yours. Even though you were hers first." "Stop," Amy hissed. "No," I said. "They deserve the truth." I pulled the envelope from the side table. The same envelope she thought would disappear in the rearview mirror. 4 copies. 4 names. Zach's hands shook as he took his. His lips moved as he read, eyes wide. Amy reached for him. He stepped back. "You picked him," he said, voice cracking. "You picked Travis over all of us." Her eyes spilled over. But she didn't cry for them. She cried for herself. The image crumbling. The illusion exposed. "Zach, baby." "I'm not your baby," he whispered. Amy turned to me, eyes blazing now. "This is your fault." "No," I said. "This is your mirror." She didn't reply. Didn't argue. She left without another word. Back to her SUV. Back to Travis. Back to whatever life she'd stitched together from the pieces of the one she tore apart. Later that night, Zach stood in the kitchen, still holding the paper. "She didn't even say sorry," he whispered. I knelt beside him. "That's not your fault. Does this make me, not hers anymore?" I shook my head. "It makes you mine. And I'm not going anywhere." He didn't cry. He just leaned in. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something shift. Not pain. Not anger. But something better. Peace. It's been 6 months since she left the second time. This time, she didn't slam the door. She didn't leave a note. She just disappeared into the quiet, like a ghost finally realizing she wasn't welcome in the land of the living. And for the first time in a long, long while, I could breathe. The house isn't perfect. The twins fight over cereal boxes. Lily's taken to painting on the walls when no one's looking. Zach still asks hard questions some nights, like, do you think she ever really loved us? I never lie. I just sit with him, shoulder to shoulder, and say, I don't know. But I do. And that's the difference. Love stays. I got full legal custody in April. It was quiet. No dramatic courtroom scene, no objections. Amy never showed. Her lawyer emailed in her statement, another ghostwritten excuse about timing and priorities. It didn't matter. Because when the judge signed those papers, I looked down at the kids sitting beside me, Lily in pink boots too big for her, Zach gripping my hand like a lifeline, and I knew. We weren't broken. We were rebuilt. People always talk about the cost of betrayal. How it wrecks your sense of trust. Your heart. Your sleep. But no one talks about what comes after. The mornings where you wake up and realize you're not bracing for impact anymore. The little joys that feel like miracles, toast not burned, a drawing taped to the fridge, for kids laughing at once like music. No one talks about the strength it takes to love again after. To let your guard down and still choose to be open, to be present. I still work at the diner. Still wear the same apron, same boots, still get a free slice of pie every Thursday from Gloria, our 80-year-old server who calls me, her boy. But now I work shorter shifts. I'm home in time for dinner. For homework. For bath time chaos and bedtime stories and Zach's new obsession with outer space. He wants to be an astronaut now. He asked me if I'd still be his dad if he lived on the moon. I told him, especially then. We painted the living room last week. Lily picked the color, sunshine cream. It's too yellow. Too loud. It doesn't match the couch. But when the morning light hits it just right, the whole house glows like a new beginning. I kept the manila envelope. Taped shut now. Not out of anger. Out of memory. Because we're not pretending it didn't happen. We're just not living there anymore. Sometimes, at night, after the dishes are done and the last sock has been picked off the stairs, I step outside and sit on the porch. I watch the wind move through the yard. Hear the faint giggles from the twins' shared room. The soft strum of Zach's YouTube guitar tutorials. Lily humming in her sleep. And I think about what she almost took from us. And what we saved, instead. This family. These kids. Myself. Because in the end, it wasn't about revenge. It was about rescue. And this time, I chose me. And they chose me back. Every day.